You saw the thumbnail, you read the title, and you still decided to click on this video. So let's not waste too much time yapping. Hi, my name is Bagbaje and this is AIM. Let's get right into it. So yes, you read that right and you heard that right. Today I am going to be creating my own SpiderSona, or my own version of Spider-Man, or turning myself into Spider-Man, whichever one you want to go with. So this was in honor of Brand New Day coming out at the end of the month, and partially because Popcross Studios monthly community redraw, in which he redraws his subscribers' art in his own style every single month. The topic for this month was creating your own SpiderSona. I was initially going to make this video something Spider-Man themed, but I initially just wanted to do a let's draw of Spider-Man and explain my process. But since I saw that video, I decided to hop on the chance and use that to create a video. Anyways, let's start our character creation process. Let's do some quick sketches. When coming into the character design process, I already had the idea in mind of what I wanted him to look like. I wanted him to look sort of like me, but in a more cartoonish way. So that's what I was going for. But the reason I had so many variations of the face was because I was trying to make him look like somebody who has endured a lot of pain, like make that pain visible on his face. Hence the version of him with eye bags under his eyes and the version of him with a huge scar across his face. But I just decided to abolish that mindset. Then I tried a version of him with glasses, but it didn't really stick with me, so I decided to just change that as well. After I got the character profile I wanted and the face I liked, it was time to design his super suit. Designing the mask was fairly easy, but I just tried to play around with the eye shape, whether or not his hair should be open or not, because when it comes to superhero suits, I like leaving their hair open. I don't just know why. It makes them look cool in my book. So when I settled on an eye shape, then it was just left to designing how the mask will look like, the different designs I will put on the mask and all that. Then I started with his logo. Boy, was this the hardest process of it all, because for different Spider-Men, they have different logos, and all their logos, like, they mean something. I wanted mine to mean something. That's what I was going for. It should have a deeper meaning than just being his emblem or his symbol. So designing this really took a lot of my time, and it really stressed me out because I couldn't figure out the right proportions and the right angle of the spider I wanted to go out. I later found one that I thought was beautiful, but the process really stressed me out. Then it was on to designing the full suit. Well, the full suit wasn't really that much of a stress. I already had some idea in mind because a few years back, when Into the Spider-Verse first came out, I already designed my SpiderSona, so I just wanted it to look more like, I wish I had the image right here, so I will show you on screen. If I find it, it will be pasted on screen, but I don't. So I already had the version of what I was going for in mind, but I just decided to play around with a few things to see if I can create a whole new design. Then, after I was done with all that, the design process and everything, it was time to get into his character profile. I actually started drawing before I realized that I wasn't recording. That's why the the mannequins, as they would say, are already placed down. But anyways, thank God I noticed on time before I was actually done with the full drawing. This was basically just me drawing his front profile, his side view, and his face without the mask, and his face with the hood on. That's basically all these parts of the art was. You see here that I still decided to give him that scar on his face. I don't know why. I just felt that it's fitting. After I decided I wouldn't do it, I just later decided to settle into it, and I liked it better than the one without the scar. Now that I've gotten my final design and my idea for my character, it's time to hop into IB's Paint and do some digital painting for the final piece. Let's go. So obviously, as you can see, I really wanted to go for a more Spider-Man dynamic pose kind of style. I didn't really achieve the pose that I initially wanted to get, but I am pretty satisfied with the result of this pose. As you can see, I decided to make some more subtle changes to my own SpiderSona than the actual Spider-Man character or other variations of Spider-Man. Instead of having him shoot his webs from under his wrist, I decided that he should shoot his webs from above his wrist, which has a very nice touch to it. I really prefer this than the under the wrist web shooting. Also, basically because I didn't know how to style the fingers in this angle, so that's partially part of the reason why. Now, color wise, I initially wanted to go for more of a white and green to showcase my Nigerian heritage, so like basically a Nigerian Spider-Man. But when I was about starting the coloring process, that's when I started thinking about his story. And if I made him Nigerian, it would just be a basic African twist of Spider-Man's origin. So I decided to take a break and really think about how I can make his origin story unique. Not really Spider-Man. It is Spider-Man, but not really the classic he got bit by a radioactive Spider-Man story. So that's what I was really thinking for. So I decided to give him more of a black and blue with his emblem glowing, which is a very huge plot point. That emblem glows for a reason. I decided to also make his webs, the webs that he shoots, glow blue. They are going to be very light blue webs, and they are always going to be glowing, and they disintegrate after just a few minutes instead of rather a few hours or an hour like some iterations of Spider-Man has. All in all, I really love this piece. I love the design and the colors I went with, and let's see the finished results of my Spider-Man. Now that we're done with that, it is time to tell you guys the origin story of my SpiderSona. I spent around 2 days trying to come up with a proper story for him, a story that will make fans connect to him, and maybe something I can use later on in the future. So that is what I went with, and I think I did it justice. So without further ado, let me step aside and let him tell you how he became Spider-Man. My name is Caden Smith. My friends call me K, not that I have any friends, not anymore. And for the past year and a half, I've been Crown City's resident hero, the Blue Widow. The city used to be named New York, but the New Order came in and changed things. My life has been a whole lot of ups and downs, mostly downs. And if you want to understand it, we have to start from the beginning. I was born into one of the poorest districts in the city, and being a black, scrawny kid, I was always bullied and picked on. My father was a pharmacist getting paid less than minimum wage, and my mom was a genius tech guru who fixed electronics from home. They weren't extraordinary or successful, but they were all I had, and they were always there for me. The biggest lesson my father ever taught me was that I should keep smiling no matter the situation. And I listened because, despite our living conditions, he always lent a hand to anyone in need and saved people with a huge smile. I never imagined that his smile would one day fade. One night, there was a fire in the next apartment building, and my dad rushed in to help. I didn't want him to, but he promised me he'd be fine, and that was the only promise my father ever made to me that he couldn't keep. After saving 6 people, he couldn't get out in time, and he died in that building. I was just 7 years old. At the time, I thought that would be the worst day of my life. If only I knew. My mother worked 3 jobs afterwards, slowly becoming thinner. She skipped meals just so I'd have enough to eat. Every night she'd lie that she'd already ate at work, but I knew she hadn't. By the time I turned 10, she was thinner than I was. I wanted to drop out of school to get a job and help my mother with the bills, but she refused to let me. She said my genius level intelligence shouldn't be wasted and I should keep going to school to improve. I listened, although now I wish I hadn't. One winter, she developed pneumonia. She couldn't go to the hospital because she couldn't afford it, and she died in her bed holding my hand. Through the pain of death, she still smiled and told me, "Whatever happens to you, Caden, keep smiling, no matter what." That was the last thing my mother ever said to me. I became broken after that, barely speaking. I entered the foster system because all my relatives were either dead or we couldn't get in contact with them, so I was officially an orphan. The home I was adopted to wasn't abusive. That would have meant someone actually cared enough to hate me. They were a small, upper middle class family of 3 and only adopted me because their daughter, Layla Laus, who was roughly 1 year younger than I was, took pity on me and begged the Laus to take me in. But I was invisible. They never remembered my birthday. I got no presents on Christmas. I wasn't even in any family pictures. They said I'd ruined the image. They left me at the supermarket multiple times. I started to think it was intentional. But Layla always remembered. She was always kind to me. I don't know why. She always gave me a part of her portions at meals, always came into my room to play with me, always made her parents include me in events. I rarely smiled, but anytime I was with her, I always felt a sense of warmth. She protected me from bullies at schools, held my hand when I looked down, and always tried to lift my spirit. She was my best and only friend. When I turned 18, shortly after high school graduation, that was the day things drastically changed. The Laos finally kicked me out because I was an adult now, despite Layla's protests. They gave me a phone and a few $1,000s so I could start my life. I got an apartment and I had to find a job so I could stay alive. My apartment was rather empty, just a bed, an electric cooker, and some other necessities. It reminded me of my old home with mom and dad. I got a job as a repair technician at a phone store due to my technological brilliance. I kept in touch with Layla every day and we would talk for hours, talking about different things. One day, I was about closing work for the night and something crashed into the parking garage below our store. Luckily, it was late at night, so nobody was really down there, so nobody got hurt. I ran to check what it was that landed there, and it was the weirdest thing. It was a rock, but it had a smooth body. Then suddenly it burst open with a bright blue light, and out of it crawled a spider-like creature. It looked injured and damaged. Usually I'm terrified of spiders, but this one looked and felt different. It had a calming and comforting presence to it. It crawled up to me slowly, and I was too stunned to move. It stopped and just stared at me, as if it was sizing me up and assessing me. It nudged its head, which intrigued me, so I reached out to it. It crawled onto my palm. Then, ever so gently and calmly, it bit me. But instead of it being painful and stinging, it felt soothing. Then, it started disintegrating and turning into dust right before the dust particles flew into me, making my body glow a bright blue, and then I passed out. I woke up in my bed the next day. I don't know how I got there. I thought maybe the whole event last night was a dream, but when I looked in the mirror, all I could see was the faintest blue glow around my body. And I had all of a sudden gotten a great athletic physique, complete with perfectly rounded plump chests and a six-pack abs. I was so confused on what the spider had done to me. I wanted to go to the bathroom and wash my face, but I shot a glowing blue string or web-type substance out of my upper wrist when I clenched my fist around the door handle, which blasted the door off its hinges. Then it disintegrated into the same blue dust that the spider turned into. I was intrigued, so I closed my hand, slightly weaker this time, and another one shot out. Not as powerful as the first one though. I wanted to test out what else this mysterious spider had done to me, but I was already running late for work. On my way there, I realized I could see into far distances, and I had some sort of infrared vision because my eyes kept fluctuating and flashing between the normal human eye view and heat signatures throughout my walk to work, making it hard to move. Throughout the day, I discovered different things that the spider gave me. I had enhanced physical strength because I ripped off the employee door just by pulling it a bit. I realized I had insane hearing, which was deafening every time it activated on its own. And I had some sort of sixth sense. The powers just kept appearing and disappearing because I couldn't control it, and it was putting too much of a strain on me, so I had to take a sick leave and go home early. On my way home, there was a police chase happening, and they were chasing an armored truck. For some reason, my heart was getting drawn to it, like I should go and stop it. I turned towards the action. I wanted to go in, but I just ignored the feeling and turned back home. An hour after I got home, I was about to have my daily call with Layla, but that's when I received the most heartbreaking call of my life. Layla and her father were hospitalized and in critical condition due to a car crash by a police cruiser and an armored truck. The same truck I saw getting chased on the road. I rushed to the hospital, and due to my enhanced speed, which made me as fast as a Mini Cooper at full speed. I managed to get to the hospital on foot in just 7 minutes. I went straight into Layla's hospital room and knelt by her side. Her mom walked in, and for the first time, she seemed happy to see me, although she was crying. She told me Mr. Laos was almost not responding, so if there's anything I wanted to say to him. I went to his side, and for the first time I remember, he smiled at me. Then he did the most shocking thing. He apologized to me. He apologized for never being there for me when I was at my lowest. He said he didn't know how to be there for a son because his father had never been there for him. He told me my time in their house was the happiest Layla had ever been, and he was glad that they took me in. He made me promise to take care of Layla no matter what. And then he flatlined. I didn't think I'd cry, but I did feel a tear streaming down my face. Unfortunately, that wasn't the end of my heartbreak that day. I went into Layla's room to tell Miss Laos what happened. Then Layla weakly called for me and told me with her dying breath a similar thing to what my mother said to me before passing. She told me, "Always remember to smile, Caden, no matter what. Take care of my mom." And just a few beats later, the only friend I had ever had died right in front of me. And for the second time in my life, I lost my entire world once again. Knowing it was my fault, knowing I could have stopped the truck, I broke down harder than I ever had before. My world had broken for the second time in my life, and in that moment, I vowed to never let anyone suffer the same fate that I have. As long as I could breathe, as long as I had these powers, and as long as I could still move, I would make sure of it. I stayed by Miss Lousy, or Alexa as I call her now. I stayed by her side till the funeral 4 days later. After all, she was basically the only family I had left. She became warmer and so kind to me after that. She was like a whole new person. And even though I expected her to revert back to her neglectful ways toward me, she never did. And we've become so close. As for me, I used my technological know-how to craft a suit for myself that I could don to fight crime and save all the people that I can, as long as I'm still breathing. Smiling while doing it, just like my father did. And that's what I did. And that's what I'm still doing today. My life has been full of drama, death, and pain. But I keep going forward, pushed by the memory of my father, my mother, and Layla. And I always remember the lessons all three of them taught me. To keep smiling, no matter what life throws at me. And that's what I do. Every single time. That was a great story. Well, in my book, I don't know about you guys, but I really enjoyed narrating the story, telling the story, and creating this story. And I seriously hope you guys enjoyed it too. I actually teared up when I was narrating the part about Leila's death. That part was so emotional to me. And I love how I wrote that scene. I just wish I had more time to develop her character more, but maybe we'll see. In a future project, I might bring Kaden back. Maybe. Anyways, I seriously hope you guys enjoyed this video. You can leave a like if you want, just so YouTube will push the video out to other people. And you can subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. I have another video up on the screen about me turning chess pieces into assassins if you want to watch that. But other than that, once again, my name is Muyi Bagbaje and this has been AIM. I'll see you in the next one.